Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Ross Patterson Revolution! Brought to you by BlackRifleCoffee.com.
Welcome to a very, very special episode of Ross Patterson Revolution today. Got one of my beef fries on. We've been friends for close to 20 years. He is not only a fantastic actor, but he is an extremely talented country musician. His name is Christian Kane. You might know him from Leverage. He's currently on the Librarians on TNT. He was also on Angel. This motherfucker has been on your screen for 20 years of your life, and you probably don't even know. He's been in a ton of films as well, and it'll shock you how many he's done. And we're going to dive into his whole career, but quickly at the top, we've got some sponsors who pay for this whole shit to be on the air. First and foremost, I'm talking about BlackRifleCoffee.com. BRCC. Look, you see me wearing the hoodies, the T-shirts, the hats, their apparel all the time. Big fan of BlackRifleCoffee.com. Even bigger fan of their coffee. They got K-Cups. They got bags. It is a premium roast-to-order coffee company. They're out of Salt Lake City. They make it in-house, and then they ship it right to your fucking doorstep. So there's none of this like rebagging or they're just throwing it up in the air and trying to make coffee happen. This is a big-ass company now. They're a fucking huge worldwide brand. Go to BlackRifleCoffee.com. Get yourself a subscription of the month club, which is what I have. Their K-Cups are about $4 cheaper than Sam's Club. And since Sam's Club doesn't exist anymore, you're going to need to get your coffee from somewhere. So go to BlackRifleCoffee.com. Use the promo code REVOLUTION for 20% off. Next up, we got StraightRazors.com. These products that I'm pointing to right now, this is StraightRazors.com. They're making this shit in-house by themselves. And it's arguably the finest shaving equipment one can have. Yes, they're straight razors. And look, it's a little tricky to get used to, but once you do, you'll never go back. They've also got these safety razors, which are incredible, and they'll help you get used to that type of blade. But they also got products for dudes. They got shampoo, they got conditioner, they've got aftershave, they've got the number one ranked cologne in the world, Smolder. Huge fan of StraightRazors.com. If you go to their site and check out their shaving kits, best in the biz. Best products they have in the business, in my opinion. Use them every single day. Go to StraightRazors.com. Use the promo code REVOLUTION for 20% off. Get yourself a nice shaving kit. Treat yourself. You've earned it. Last but not least, we've got StrikeForceEnergy.com. You see these boxes littered everywhere. You see the fucking 750 milliliter bottle that just rests here. Drink this shit all the time. I had some before I went to the gym this morning. This is grape. They got 4 flavors. They got grape. They got original orange. And they've also got lemon, which is a nice little pre-spring drink. I'm kidding. It's nowhere close to spring. That's wishful thinking on my part. As I freeze here, but go to StrikeForceEnergy.com. Get a fucking nice little 10 pouch to re-energize. Get yourself alive and alert again. Type in the promo code REVOLUTION for 20% off. They also have a subscription on the month club, which is fucking awesome. Tonight's guest is again, you've probably seen him on your television or movie screen for the last 20 years. His projects are a laundry list. I'm going to go through them real quick. Leverage. He was on that for 77 episodes of Leverage. I want to say it was 5 or 6 seasons that thing went. He's on the Librarians, which I believe is in like season 4 now of the Librarians, which is, again, man, you go from boom, 5, 6 seasons worth of Leverage to boom, 4 seasons of Librarians. Dating back, he was on Close to Home for 2 seasons. He was on Angel from 99 to 2004. That for 5 seasons. He's literally been everywhere that you've probably watched television at some point in your life or movies. Secondhand Lions. I remember from Secondhand Lions with Robert Duvall. That was fucking awesome. Big fan of Christian. Also been beef fries with him for, again, close to 20 years. And I can't wait to talk to him. I think if my memory serves me correctly, we met auditioning in a movie called Summer Catch with Freddie Prinze Jr. And Jessica Biel, who, look, the Bielster at the time was my jam. Heavy into Bielster. She got a little too thin for me growing up. She worked out a little too much. And she ended up marrying some no-name, some fucking stroke dick named Justin Timberlake. Never that. What did that guy do? Does he have a podcast? Doubt it. I doubt Timberlake has a podcast. But we met on that audition, and it turned out we had a mutual friend as well. So we all became best friends. And he ended up getting Summer Catch. And then we become friends off of that. And I see him in another audition 2 years later for a movie called Just Married. It was down to him, I, and one other person for that as well. And then another show called Las Vegas with Josh Duhamel. That was a dangerous, sexy show. Didn't get that either. He beat me out for those. I'm not sure if I beat him out for anything, to be honest with you. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I'm gonna give him a call right now, and then we'll pop into the show, shall we?
It's a Cinderella story after that.
Yeah, I mean, for real. Look, I was telling the audience, you've had an unbelievable career. Let's start from the beginning. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Texas. I was born in Texas. I was raised in Oklahoma and Texas, back and forth and all that kind of stuff. And grew up in Odessa, Texas.
Oh yeah,
Permian. Yeah, and then just kind of back and forth. Daddy was in the oil business, and so we moved around wherever the oil was, and it was a good upbringing.
Yeah.
It was a little bit tough being I was always the new kid on the block. I was always the new kid at school. I went to 5 different elementary schools.
Oh shit. That's one for every year.
You get beat up a lot.
I can imagine.
The new kid coming in. Well, because you're always trying to talk to the girl that you think, oh my God, she's a beautiful girl. So you try to talk to her, and then you realize that somebody has a history with her for 2 or 3 years, and I didn't have that history, and so that's an ass whooping.
Yeah, it always is. But it made you tough though.
It does. Yeah.
It makes you tough real quick. And then you went to University of Oklahoma, didn't you?
I did. I went to the University of Oklahoma for a little bit. It was amazing. I mean, it was I think the best looking in the women in the world go to the University of Oklahoma. I can't stress that enough. I literally walked across the street from high school to go to college.
That's how close it was.
Oklahoma. That's how close it was.
Wow.
Literally, that's how close it was. And so, yeah, and it was, I grew up with OU in my blood. I grew up with all that stuff. I went to, I think I went to Norman. I finally landed in Norman when I was in the 8th grade, and just that was a college town, man. It was sooner born, sooner bred, and then just literally. That's how close it was. Walked across the street to go to college. So
man, so before we move on, how pissed were you at that Oklahoma game? We chatted at halftime, and you guys were destroying Georgia, and I was like, man, congratulations on making the national championship. And you said back to me, you were like, well, it's only the first half, and I was like, this game looks like it's over to me.
Yeah. It's. I was talking to Crawford at the same time, a good buddy of ours that we grew up with that a lot of people don't know about, Clayne Crawford, who plays Martin Riggs on Lethal Weapon.
Yep.
That's our boy, man. It was me, Ross, and Crawford for a long time. Many a year.
And he's been on the show as well. So the audience loves him. Yeah.
So I was talking to Crawford, and at some point we were texting, and Alabama didn't play till the next day. I literally said, "I'm not going to talk to anybody for 2 days, so don't text me, don't call me." And he goes, "Ha ha, I love you, boy. I understand." I was so upset, man. I just couldn't believe that they didn't win. And I don't want to call it dropping the ball. I still think we could have won the national championship. I'm one of those guys, man. I'm so upset about that game and it makes me so mad.
Yeah, it's funny. I talked about this last week on my show here that I think because look, with Baker Mayfield, as much as he was, I don't know, hated, so to speak, I think you needed a star in that national championship game. And I think Oklahoma would have beaten both of those teams. That was a sloppy game in that championship game Monday night.
It's a sloppy game, and at halftime, obviously the game became something else than what it was. But I'm telling you right now, they couldn't have beat us. Neither one of those teams could have beat us on that day. And I know that everyone's going to disagree with me and say all this other stuff, but you couldn't have beat Oklahoma on that day. We literally, and I know that people are going to disagree, but we should have won the national championship. We had talent, we had stuff. What they weren't doing, what they were not doing, either team, they weren't doing what we could have gotten away with.
Right.
We'll throw in the middle. We'll throw downfield. All this other stuff. It was such a closed game, and everyone was being so protective, and that's not what we do.
Yeah. I think you're right, and I'll agree with you on this one. I think Oklahoma would have won the national championship game for whatever reason. That Georgia team, once they got to the big game, especially losing in the second half against all freshmen who have never played before, was shocking, and that there's no way they would have beat Baker Mayfield on that day. I don't think.
No, they would have, and you know what? We would have scored. We would have scored a lot of points in the first half. I got to be honest, and neither team really went out there and went, you know what? Let's go for it.
Right.
And that's kind of what we do, which is why I love this new coach. I really honestly love this new coach. I don't want to say anything bad about Bob Stoops. Bob Stoops did a lot of stuff for us. But he got put in positions to where he didn't win.
Yeah.
He didn't, he got put in positions, and this guy, you can say the same thing about this guy, but he didn't quit. It's not going to be like that. And I just honestly think that he would have coached through what was going on when Alabama played Georgia.
Yeah. And look, I think Oklahoma's got a bright future. So you guys got a good one in that coach. And I think you guys are going to be back again next year, Replacing Baker is going to be tough. But so after Oklahoma, what made you decide to move to LA and get into acting then?
Well, I always wanted to be an actor. I mean, I like I said, my daddy grew up. He moved us around a lot, and some of my best friends were the movies. And I just, Mama would drop me off. I'd see a couple films. I just knew I didn't know what I wanted to do in life. I was always the new kid on the block and all this other kind of stuff. And I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. Then I wanted to be a bartender. Then I wanted to be Top Gun. I don't mean to make a bunch of Tom Cruise references, but but whatever Tom Cruise was doing, I wanted to do what he was doing, except for joining Scientology. And so, but the thing is that I just always wanted. And I said, man, if I'm an actor, I could do all that stuff. And I found that out at a young age. I found that out about 15. I was like, man, if I just do this, then I can get to be whatever I want. And so I started going to the movies by myself. I really, like every Sunday night, no matter if I had a girlfriend, no matter who was with me, no matter what, Sunday nights were my own. And I just went to the movies by myself.
Yeah,
and
it's fun. I did the same thing. Like I was going to the movies by myself, and that continued for years, even when we lived in LA together.
Yeah, well, exactly, and that's my whole point. Was that was my acting class, and I always said, and I hate to say this about other people because I don't know what their gig is, I don't know what they're looking for. I've never taken an acting class, only because I'm not going to spend $500 a month to take lessons from someone who couldn't hack it in the business in the first place.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm saying? I mean,
I get it.
Here's how you act. I'm like, how do you know? Because if you knew how to do it, then you wouldn't be doing this crap. So
it's a good point. There's a fine line between people who believe in coaches and people who don't believe in coaches.
And that's my whole thing, man. And that's why I really honestly, I don't want to say anything bad about people that really rely on that and stuff like that, because I think there is a good thing. But also, I also think there's a thing where it's either in you or it's not in you. You can't teach stuff that I just honestly believe it. With the acting stuff, you can't teach stuff that's not going to be there. You have to either have feelings or you don't have feelings, and it's all about feel, and it's all about everything else. And so, but the point I'm trying to make is that I didn't Sunday nights was my acting class. I watched everybody. And, acting is stealing. You steal stuff from other people.
Absolutely.
So everything I've done, I've been a thief, because I'm always stealing from people that I watched on screen. and you learn from them. You pull from them. You do everything else, and I just that's the best acting class you could ever get. And they may have gotten it from somewhere. And a lot of these people will tell you they got it from an acting teacher, but a lot of that stuff is just self-taught, man. I mean, it's just, you either have it or you don't. It's the same thing as painting. It's the same thing as playing guitar, which I'm not a good guitar player. I play guitar, but it's only just to get through what I'm doing because I want to be able to sing. It's just, you either have it or you do not.
Yeah, I believe the same to a certain degree. Where it's the same with comedy and improv and things like that, where everybody's like, "Oh my God, you're hilarious," or you're always so quick. It's like, and people are like, "Well, I'm taking classes on that." It's like, I don't really think that you can. They can teach you the basics.
Improv, I'm okay with. An improv class or an improv a school like you've done and all that kind of stuff. And the way that your comedy is, I can't do that, man. I know that's not my DNA. I just know that's not. I've known you for so many goddamn years.
Yeah. And
I know that I cannot do what you do, no matter what. And it's just the fact that I could take classes and it's never going to teach me. You know what I mean? It's either Ross or it's exactly.
I 100% agree, and I feel the same way about stand-up comedy too, where it's like, man, you can't take a stand-up comedy class and go up and crush. Like, it's in you or it's not in you. You can either go up on the stage or not. I think acting classes are fine for teaching some of the basics and all that other stuff, but as far as getting the part and getting the role, I don't know, because it's a different feeling inside an audition room than what it is when you're in a class. I would absolutely highly recommend taking an auditioning class, because auditions, and you can testify to this, auditions are completely 100% different than when you're actually on camera. Oh yeah, it's 100%, and trying to get a role in an audition is way, way different than when you're on a set actually physically acting in the movie.
Absolutely, it's two different things, man. It's literally it's night and day.
So what was your first big break, and how long were you in LA until that happened?
Man, I was very fortunate. It's kind of a Cinderella story. I literally came out here. I didn't know one person, not one person, and I did know one person who gave me a shot. I was a bartender in Laguna Beach because I wanted to move to California, so I came out by myself. I was a bartender in Laguna Beach. Ended up coming up to Los Angeles every once in a while just to try to meet people, But it's really hard to meet girls or guys.
Yeah, as a single dude, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't speak American Express at the time, so everybody, it says like LA is such a money rich crowd, and I ended up getting a job from a casting director as the PA.
Okay.
On a show called Fire Company 132. It was a Fox show. And I was an office PA. And so I used to just I just had the best time in the world. I was up at 6 a.m. and I wouldn't close down till sometimes 2 a.m. I was getting no sleep, but I was on a TV show, but I was an office PA. So I was just the errand boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I met a good friend of mine who introduced me to, who is still my manager to this day, Stacey Boniello. And she had just moved her office. I helped her move her office from being an assistant from a good friend of mine, Brian Swarstrom, who I believe still is the one of the heads at Endeavor, partner at Endeavor.
Yeah.
And I moved Stacey, and I said, listen, man, I'll make runs for you if you send me on auditions. And Stacey didn't laugh at me, but everyone else laughed at me. They're like, all right, whatever. And 6 months later, I was lead on a TV show. It just doesn't happen like that. Man. Joseph Middleton, who was a casting director, helped me out so much. It was ridiculous. He brought me in for something that I think was already cast, but he just wanted to see if I could audition. And that's why I bring up the importance of auditioning. He just saw, and so I didn't get that role. And then the next role that I got was Fame LA, and Joseph helped me on that audition. And I got Fame LA, and it was like not Fame in New York, but Fame, LA.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was not a pilot. It was 22 episodes on air. So I literally, and I've said it before, I went from eating a can of ranch style beans a day to a little bit of money, man. And everyone else bought a car, and I finally bought a bed because I was sleeping on the floor. I'm dead serious. And you know, it was kind of like I've been very fortunate because I've not had an off year since then, man. I work hard. I'm from the old. I have two mottos. Number one is 9% of life is showing up.
Yep.
That's Woody Allen. And number two is you learn to fight by fighting, and that's Bruce Lee. You learn to dance by dancing. You learn to cook by cooking. You learn to act by acting. It's one of those things. And so I just, you know, you learn to fight by fighting. It's Bruce Lee.
No, absolutely. One of my favorite Woody Allen quotes is "Happy Father's Day." Totally kidding.
I know. I know. It's a dangerous role. When you quote Woody Allen, you better be able to back it up. And the whole story, I think, backed it up because it's like, yeah, because you can't really quote Woody Allen, anymore.
It's getting tough to quote any male in Hollywood these days.
I'm not going to get into that, but
no.
I understand exactly what you're talking about. Yeah,
oh
exactly.
Boy, it's a fucking bloodbath out there. So you get Fame LA. How long does that go? It goes what? One season?
It went one season, yeah, but it was 22 episodes, and who gives a crap?
Yeah, exactly.
I had no money, I had nothing, and I was like, yeah. And then right after that, I was fortunate enough to Aaron Spelling hired me for a show called Rescue 77.
Man,
and I'm not sure how I got that because I tried to screw that up so many times. But I ended up getting it, and I got to work with Aaron Spelling, and not a lot of people could say that. And I tell you, if he's not one of the best men in the world, he's such an unbelievable person. He literally is an unbelievable. I had to go in his office every day because I always changed my hair and did all this other kind of stuff. So he would call me in. And I had to go in his office. He was like, and I don't want to get into that because I know that you're on a time schedule.
No, we have no time at all. So we have no time schedule, no limits on this show. So we can talk for hours.
So I literally wanted to do the Clooney because Clooney was rocking it on ER. You know what I mean?
Killing it. Yeah.
So I had this one hair. Then I went to the Clooney. So I did the Clooney, and then Aaron loved it. So then I would kind of spike it up a little bit and kind of wanted to be the different thing. And you have to understand the show is literally like it was. I was a paramedic, but I was like I was shooting from the hip. You know what I mean? It was gutter medicine.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be like the wildcat. You know what I mean? Which I was on the show, but I would spike the hair up and I would go in and I would get a call, and Aaron would call me into his office and he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "We're going to take the hair back down." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And when I walked into his office, you have to understand this. Shag carpet, this huge thing. This little, that I love to death, this little frail man would get up from around the desk, give me a hug, sit back down and say, "Christian, we got to change the hair." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." So I would go back to the set and I would change the hair. Then I would change it again. And then I'd get a call. And they're like, "You got to go see Aaron." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in trouble." And he had a guy there, and I mean, if you've ever worked for Aaron Spelling, you know his name's Duke, and he's not somebody to be toyed with. And Duke would be standing there. And then I gave Aaron a hug on the shag carpet, and Aaron would, and then we got to change the hair. And I was like, "Okay." And I'm like, "We're not having a problem again?" I'm like, "No." And I was like, "Absolutely not." And then I would change it again, and I would get called back into the office. And I realized at some point that maybe he did care about the hair, but at the same time, he knew that it was because he was mid-Wilshire. So I'd have to go all the way down. He would call me out of my stuff, and I'd have to go all the way down to mid-Wilshire just to deal with this conversation. And Duke would be there, and Duke is not somebody you want to mess with. But it was still Aaron Spelling, and he would get up out of his chair, he would come over, he would give me a hug, and to a sense, I started just wanting to go hang out with the guy because it was Aaron Spelling. You know what I mean? Like when they called me in the office, I think they thought it was a bad thing, but I got to go hang out with Aaron Spelling, man, who is an icon in this town.
Yeah,
and such a sweet man, and gave me a job, and it was one of the coolest things that I've been a part of, just because there's not a lot of people in this industry anymore that, unless you're a little bit older, that know how much Aaron Spelling meant to the television industry.
Yeah, the guy was a titan. I mean, arguably of all time, he created. He's one of the biggest television.
Love Boat, Charlie's Angels.
Yeah.
Let's go through the 90210 Melrose Place. I mean, you have to understand who the guy is, and it's just And I was in his office, and every time I came in, even when I was in trouble, he gave me a hug, and I loved him to death.
That's great. Let me ask you this to close up Rescue 77. Was the character name Wick Lobo the greatest character name you've ever had?
Yeah, it was Wick Lobo, and it was really strange because. Thank you for that, Ross. I appreciate that.
Well, here's the thing: if you have crazy hair, I don't understand what Aaron Spellin was thinking when it's like, hey, the character's name is Wick Lobo. You should probably have like the craziest hair of all time.
Yeah, no, and the whole thing is, it's so funny you bring that up because the guy I just got done playing was Flyboy Leggett on Fame LA. So it's really, yeah. I was like going, "Are you freaking kidding me, man?" And then Wick Lobo, and then the other character that I got right after that was Lindsay McDonald.
Oh, now we're getting
Angel.
Yeah, now we're getting into Angel.
Yeah, there's not a lot of juice here. We are getting into Angel, but I'm just saying, like, it's like I could not win with names. And I mean, let's jump a little bit further, and we can go into Angel. But let's jump a little bit further. My next character was Elliot Spencer, and I got a story for you on that one, man.
So how did you come about Angel? Was it just like your stock standard audition from your agent? You didn't know anything about it, or were you a Buffy fan before?
No, I knew. I was actually really good friends with Boreanaz at the time, David Boreanaz, who played Angel.
Oh, all right.
And so I knew David was a very good friend of mine, and we were hanging out and stuff like that, and I knew that he had gotten his own show.
Gotcha.
It hadn't happened yet, but he had just left, and he had gotten his own show. And so I, again, will bring it back to Mark Blucas. I tested against Mark Blucas for Riley, which the whole story gets very incestual because So I tested against Mark Blucas. He got Riley. I didn't. Riley was supposed to be the replacement for Angel. You know what I mean? Like that's who Sarah Michelle Gellar would end up, really, really liking and all this other kind of stuff. And he was supposed to be the tough guy and all this other kind of stuff. And I thought Mark did such a great job with that, but I didn't get the role. So I didn't tell David about this. And me and David were really good friends at the time, but I ended up, Josh said, okay, so David Greenwalt, I should say, David Greenwalt, who was also, co-producer and co-writer and co-creator of Angel, brought me in to play Lindsay McDonald.
Gotcha.
And it was just supposed to be a one-off type thing. And he ended up making it 5 seasons, this character. I did the pilot. That was it. That was I felt like, honestly, the consolation prize.
Yeah.
For not getting the big role that everybody, grew to love as Riley on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I had no idea. And so I did one episode. Then they called me back like 4 or 5 weeks later. They called me back and said, "Can you come back in and play this role?" I was like, "Yeah, that's fine." It's, all this other stuff. And then
that just kept going for 5 years of your life. Like, hey, can you come back in and do this role?
It just kept going, and I quit. Yeah, no, it's not even that. They cut off my hand, and they cut off my right hand. Yeah, easy, man. You know me. I was around you during that time. You know how much I hated that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
When you cut off your right hand, there's not a lot of things you can do. When you're used to your right hand.
Yeah, it limits you a lot. It limits you a lot in television.
Does.
Yeah.
But but by the way, you can't eat.
No.
I'm used to eat with my, you know what I mean? Like even a fork. So I mean, just saying.
You had to go to lunch every day eating with your left hand because they, wardrobe and makeup probably didn't want to fuck with that
exactly,
hand.
Man, because it was because they put on a plastic glove. This is gonna really good. They put on a plastic glove, and then they put plaster on, and then they painted it, and then they put another plastic glove. They painted it, so it was 45 minutes in the chair.
Yeah,
putting this glove on, so they can't take it off during lunch because lunch is either 30 minutes or an hour.
So you're stuck with that.
I know where you're going with this.
Look, there's a lot of downtime in the trailer, and if you don't have your right hand, It is.
Exactly, but
It is.
when you only have 30 minutes, thank you. But when you only have 30 minutes and there's only 45, and it takes 45 minutes to put back on, you cannot take
Can't do
the
it.
thing off.
Yeah.
No. So I had like a fake hand, and I looked over at Tim Minear, and Tim Minear is an unbelievable writer. He wrote really great stuff for me. But I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing?" He'll remember this story. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, and I would not be killed. I would not be killed. Like other people died, but my manager at the time, still my manager today, would be like, "Does he die?" And they go, "Yeah, he dies." And he goes, "And he's not showing up because I was reoccurring."
Right.
So he's not showing up. Because I wasn't going to show up and just let you kill me when I had no fake hand. And by the way, let me explain. Let me reiterate the fact that I'm on a show with superheroes, with vampires and people that can fly around and all this other stuff. And I'm a lawyer with one hand. You know what I mean? I was on the coolest show in the world, and everybody's like, "Man, you were on the coolest show in the world." But you have to understand the character that I was playing was not having any fun whatsoever.
No, he was a handless lawyer. Is who he was.
Yeah, exactly, man. And the downtime was horrible. And Ross, stop. I know where you're going. Stop, dude. You're gonna get me into something.
I've stopped with that. I've
known Ross for too long. I've known this cat for too long. I know where he's trying to take me.
I picture you walking around just miserable with his no hands.
Yeah.
Not really wanting to talk to people. Everybody else is chipper as fuck because they got awesome roles.
And it would have been cool if it was the fist because I could have punched somebody. If it wasn't, the hand was sticking like straight out like a horrible. It was just, you know,
like a scarecrow. Yeah, like a scarecrow
exactly,
hand.
Man.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a good karate chop because it was placed wrong. You know what I mean? And it wasn't in a position where I could slap anybody because of the position. It was just like look at me, I'm the asshole of the bunch.
Yeah.
And so so the fact is that, you know, I just got done and I looked at Tim Minear and I said, "Hey man, let me I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm writing the next episode." And I was like, "Awesome." He goes, I go, "How is it?" He goes, "It's great." And I looked at him and I literally like did the whole throat cut thing and I said, "Fucking kill me."
Really?
And he laughed and he goes, and yeah, he laughed and he goes, "No way. Are you serious?" And I go, "Tim, fucking kill me."
Wow.
I'm like, I was so done with the hand. I was so done of not being a superhero on a superhero show. and literally, and so I guess he took that somewhere. I don't know if it was him or not, but anyway, I think David Greenwald got a hold of it. I know Josh did, and they ended up giving me they gave me my hand back. They gave me an evil hand, and yeah, which was awesome, which was great. And the worst thing about that is that the day we got it. No, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway,
fire away.
I got my hand back. It's just me and David have been. No, I can't talk about Boreanaz, man, because I don't really talk to him anymore. But it was all right. So the day I got my hand back. I love you, Ross. We've been friends for too long, dude. You know exactly. All right, here's the thing, man. The day I got my hand back, we walked in, and I get my hand back from a guy, and there was a bunch of people. There was a lot of people. There was a lot of bodies and like, you know, CGI stuff and all that kind of stuff. But there was a couple of amputees in there and stuff like that, and you know. And I was getting my hand back, and me and David were so hungover from the night before, and we had a whole fight scene and all this other kind of stuff. So we were literally like, it was so bad. So I walked in, and if you ever watch that scene, me and David were really, really hungover, and you know, he's gonna get pissed at me. He's a Navy SEAL now, isn't he?
Yeah. He's on the Navy SEAL show and on CBS right now.
Whatever, dude. And so we were really hungover. I got my hand back. I got the whole thing, and all of a sudden I had a hand, and then I got a movie, and I had to leave. And it was a really weird thing, man. It was a thing that I did. So I left the show. I really can't talk about that but I left the show, and then I went to but I was still friends with David, and me and David were talking. I was in New York. I really wanted to come back. I thought it would be so great to come back. And I was in New York, and I was doing a film called Taxi with Jimmy Fallon and Queen Latifah.
Queen Latifah, yeah.
And just unbelievable, man. And those guys, we were having such a good time. And Joss Whedon called me in my hotel room and said, "Do you want to come back?" And I said, "Are you kidding me, man? I would love to come back." It's Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Which I think is one of the most brilliant people in television that's ever hit the television scene.
100%. 100%.
Yeah. And he said, do you want to come back? I said, "So we've got a role. We want to bring your role back and all this other stuff." And I said, "I would love it." And I said, "Joss," and as humble as I could, I said, "Man, I would love to come back, and I'm coming back no matter what. If you're asking me, I'm coming back because I love you. But is there any way I couldn't get beat up anymore? Because I got beat up by every girl on the show, literally every girl on the show." And he said, "Yes." He goes, "It's not going to be like that. You just trust me." I said, "Do you trust me?" I said, "Yeah." So I came back. First scene up, my mom flies into town. David Boreanaz is directing. I'm in a strip joint with Spike, played by my good friend James Marsters.
Yep.
And he's kicking the crap out of me. And I just go, I look at Josh and I go, "Man, seriously?" And he, because I'm getting beat up again. And he goes, "Trust me." And I didn't know what the tattoos were for. He wouldn't tell me. I had all these tattoos on me, and he wouldn't tell me what it was for. And I ended up getting the fight Angel, and ended up losing that fight, but pretty much won. And it was a cool gig, man. And once again, there's a couple of people I can attribute my life to in this industry, and one of them is by far Joss Whedon, and he saved my life again. So he's a really great guy.
Yeah, it's amazing. The fans of Angel are rabid, to say the least. I did a gig a couple years ago with actually James, your buddy James Marsters, he's also a musician. I hosted this event. I want to say it was some Comic-Con in like Knoxville, Tennessee, and brought him to the stage. The fans of that show to this day are just rabid. It is insane. Do you still find that?
Oh man, it's ridiculous. I mean, when my booth was next to James, and James has actually got a new show where he's with the Marvel Group, and we were in Australia. We just got back from Australia like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, and me and James went to Australia, and we were with Stan Lee, and I think it was Stan Lee's final
Comic-Con?
convention, or Comic-Con, yeah. And so it was really crazy because it was like Stan Lee and then Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things, and then me, and then James, and James's line was ridiculous, man. And it has a lot to do with the fact of the new show that he's doing. Because Stan Lee, the reason I brought up Stan Lee was because Stan Lee ended up coming up on stage and welcoming James to the Marvel universe.
That's great.
I wish I could tell you right now, and I know exactly what I'm talking about. I just can't think of it right now. But James is in a new Marvel show, so it's like all this other kind of stuff. But I'm telling you, like they bring me and James and Charisma, and they Charisma Carpenters are still a very good friend of mine from Angel and all that kind of stuff. And we go have dinner. It's like people love her, and it's a different thing, man. There was Star Trek,
right?
And then there was nothing.
No, there was nothing else in that world. And I think that show and obviously Buffy occupied that space. And at the time, that was a huge percentage of the population who wanted shows like that. And you guys were the only ones doing it. And again, to this day, the fans for that are crazy. I remember doing The New Guy with Eliza Dushku. And every time we went out to dinner, at restaurants in town, she would be bombarded with fans from that series. And I was like, fuck, man, is it always like this? She was like, always like this. And again, even James Marsters to this day, like that, I think that Comic-Con thing was maybe a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, somewhere in there. The line, you're right. The line for his booth was down around the block. And like, he had to schedule it for hours of like, look, I'm only doing this for 2 hours today. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it was for that show.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous, man. I mean, me and David did one in Chicago. Me and Boreanaz did one in Chicago, just me and David. And Stephanie Romanoff was there as well. And the line for the picture with just me and David, with me and David in the shot, went outside the whole thing, around the block, and down 2 streets. And it was it was fantastic because of what I was seeing. It was like that you had Star Trek, and then you had nothing. And the fact is once Josh created vampires in a rural world, we were the next guys. We were the next guys in line. Buffy and Angel were the next guys to do conventions. And now, I don't want to take anything away from Comic-Con because Comic-Con's always been there and it's a huge thing. But even then, it wasn't that big.
Right.
Now you've got Marvel heroes. You've got all these guys coming in. You've got different shows. You've got different genres. But it was Star Trek conventions and the people that made fun of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And
then it was Angel and Buffy conventions and the people that made fun of them. And now it's Comic-Con and the people that don't freaking go.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, to me personally, I think Buffy and Angel made that nerd culture cool. It made it big. It made it acceptable. And people come out of the fucking woodwork to go and meet the stars from that. And it's crazy.
If I'm with James or if I'm with Charisma or if I'm with anybody else, you're never gonna see. It's that we're always gonna have people there that are, and it's so crazy now because and I hate the fact that we're getting older, but we're getting older, and it's 20-year-olds that go, man, I was watching you when I was 10. It's just kind of incredible.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah.
There's a series I want to bring up that was one of my favorites that you were on, called Close to Home. And the reason,
are you kidding me, man?
The reason why it's my favorite is they had hired you to play like a cool musician character. That did not happen whatsoever. You ended up holding the baby every episode. At the top of the show, you would kiss your wife goodbye. At the end of the show, you were holding the baby, or like the middle of the show. And I want to talk about that experience.
Such a dick.
No.
For the listeners out there, you have to understand something. I was going through this when me and Ross and Crawford were going out and getting drunk every night on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah.
So you have to know that about us. So Ross went through this with me. Yeah. So what do you want to know, man?
Here's what were you hired to do? What was the role of Jack Chase? What was the role of Jack Chase? And what was
his name up? I forgot his name already, man. You brought his name up.
So Jack Chase, when you get that character in Breakdown, tell the audience who he was supposed to be.
So Jack Chase, I can't believe you found his name. So Jack Chase was when I was hired. Jack Chase was a musician.
He was a cool musician.
He was a cool musician. Yeah, he was a musician, and he literally he was a construction worker, but he did like some musician stuff. And I can't believe you're bringing this up.
Well, because here's the thing. You're an amazing musician, which we're going to get to in a moment. But you're an amazing musician, and when you got that role, you were super excited, and you were like, man, I'm going to get to play music. This is a really cool show. It's a really cool gig.
Not only that, but you have to say something. I remember the night that I went back, and Ross was there. We're all hanging out at the house, and Crawford was there, and Ross was there, and I told him, I said, man, I just booked a Jerry Bruckheimer show.
Yeah. Yeah, and you were.
By the way, number one on Friday nights on CBS.
100%.
Huge network. Yeah, everything else.
Huge network. People love the show too. Like
I was number 2 on the call sheet.
Yep.
And I ended up. I was supposed to be a musician, and I was supposed to be a construction worker, and things didn't work out well. CBS had dropped to procedural shows in the courtroom during that time, so I couldn't. So they moved everything from the whole show, which was supposed to be, it's called Close to Home, which are crimes happening close to home, which was how we dealt with it. The lead girl and me that just had a baby being next to stuff that happens in rural America.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you say, this is not downtown LA. This is like, backyard Ohio. And so that was the whole thing, and it was supposed to be a different show, but they lost procedurals, so they moved everything into the courtroom, and so there I am. I'm literally like number 2 on the call sheet. I'm in 10 out of 22 episodes. I get turned to the guy that I know the story that you want me to tell.
Oh,
I know that the guy I turned into the guy that's just every time she gets home, 1 out of 3 episodes that's holding the baby.
Yeah.
Just go, the Mr. Mom, which I wouldn't have mind playing Mr. Mom.
Sure.
But I just didn't want to do it 1 out of 3 episodes. By the way, I still got paid. But
you made a lot of money on that show, and which is gonna bring me to the point of this. So most people would have been super.
You want me to tell the all right, go ahead.
Yeah. So most people would have been.
You want me to tell the Emilio Estevez story?
Yeah. So most people would have been super amped to taking a huge paycheck and just holding a baby every episode. Because what happened was she was out. Your wife on the show was out solving crimes all day, while you were taking care of the baby, this newborn baby that you guys had. And one day we were playing golf at the same place, the same par 3 where they shot swingers at. And it was you, me, and Clayton Crawford. We're playing par 3, and your cell phone goes off, and they're like, "Hey, we need you to come." And we had been, day drinking all day, and you were like, "Man, fuck this." You were like, "Man, I'm not gonna go in just to hold the goddamn baby anymore. I'm gonna take matters into my own hands." And Clayton and I were like, "All right, cool. What are you gonna do?" And you're like, "Man, I gotta get killed off the show somehow."
By the way, you have to tell them that nobody was working at the time, man. It was like
no one.
That's when somebody gets a call, when that phone rings, dude. We're all like, "What's going on? What are we doing? What are we doing?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to preface that. Yeah.
I will, because at the time, work was hard. And none of us. I think me and Clayton were in between movies. Like, we hadn't gotten gigs in 4 or 5 months at this point. We're like, "Fuck, what are we gonna do?" You were on a highly rated CBS procedural show, getting a ton of money.
Sorta.
And you were pissed about holding this baby while your wife solved crimes all day. So that day on the golf course, you were like, "Man, I'm going to tell him to fucking kill me off." And Clayton and I are like, "No, don't do it. It's so much money." And you were like, "I'll get another TV show. Fuck it." And they killed you off in the most violent fashion of all time. What did you think when you read that script?
I got on the phone. Man, I talked to Terry Bruckheimer, who's, everybody knows who the
biggest
is.
Film producer of all time.
And I said, "Will you take?" And it was a couple of people on the phone, and I was like this and that. They said, "Will you take a divorce?" And I said, "You got it." And they called me back an hour later, and they said, "Will you show up?" Which, if they make me reoccurring, a la Angel, I don't have to show up.
Right.
So they said, "Are you going to show up?" And I said, "I will see." So 7 hours later, I get a call, and it's from Bruckheimer's people, and they said, it was Jerry, and I was like, I'm thinking I'm blacklisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's
from
just
town.
Gonna be like nobody's ever going to work with you again, like all this other stuff, because you're not going to play ball with us and stuff like that. And they go, "Okay, you're dead." And I went from making more money, I think, at that time than I ever had before. And they said, "We're going to kill you." And I said, "Thank you."
Oh boy, yeah.
And I'll never forget that, man, because it was just like I just cut out a paycheck, but it's quality of life, man. It's quality of life. I really honestly don't give a shit about money when it comes to that stuff. It's quality of life, and I was not happy, and I was not having a good time. And so they killed me, and they said, "There's going to be a horrible, horrible car accident." And all this kind of, but the thing you skipped was that I worked, and I got to bring this story up, and I can't believe we're talking about
That's fine.
This show, this piece of shit show that I was on for that long. But still, one of the directors came in, and it was Emilio Estevez, which if you Young Guns, man, I became an actor because of this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, and he directed an episode, and he was like, he came in and he goes, "So here's what I want, man." He goes, "She comes in, you've got the baby. She comes in, and you put the baby in the crib, and then she comes in, and then she makes some, you get up, you're gonna make her some tea, I think was the thing. You get up, you make her some tea, then you come back, you hand her the tea, and you start rubbing her back." her shoulders.
Right.
And she tells you, and that way I can get a 2-shot, which, if you know anything about it, I can get a 2-shot of you over her, and she tells you about her day, and we can get rid of some of this dialogue.
Right.
And so I'm supposed to get up, I'm supposed to go make her some tea, come back into the room, hand her the tea, and rub her shoulders. And I said, I love it, Emilio. I love it.
Yeah.
I said, or here's something we could do. I could be watching the baseball game on the couch, and she could come in and plop her ass on the couch and tell me about her day. And then you get a 2-shot there, and I really don't give a crap about what's going on.
You told this to Emilio Estevez?
I told it to Emilio, and Emilio looked at me and he goes, you have to get off the show. And I said, for the first time in my life, I go, oh my God, you're absolutely right. I was like, yeah. And Emilio, by the way, gave me something that I told Emilio that. I told him that, he was one of the reasons I became an actor, and he's an unbelievable director. He's an unbelievable director. He's an unbelievable person in life. And he dug in his drawer and found the last star from Young Guns 2 that he gave to the crew and the cast and the crew. And it says Young Guns 2, and on the back it says, I'll make you famous, Emilio.
Oh, man, that's awime. You still have that, right?
I still have that. I mean, you kidding me? I'll never, you have to pry that from my cold, dead hands. And I'll never forget it. I'm not saying anything about Emilio except for the fact that he was the one that literally goes, you got to get off this show. Because, it was killing me, man. You want to act. I don't give a shit about the money. You want to act. You want to be out there. You want to do all this stuff, and that show was not for me.
Sure.
Thank you, Ross, for bringing that up.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah. You're welcome. I remember, if memory serves me correctly, you went to Nashville after that, and you called Kane and I was up at his house on Friday night, and you were like, hey, man, my last episode is airing tonight. So I was like, oh, all right, cool. So we ended up watching it, and you back out of the driveway. Your car backs out of the driveway, and then you just get destroyed by a truck. Like, it was the most violent death of all time. And I was like, well, I think he's done with the show. I think he's all gone.
It was almost Chef. If you're a South Park fan. I was not, But I did see Jerry Bruckheimer a year and a half later, and we were at the Upfronts, and Jerry was very cool with me. So I don't think that I blackballed myself with Jerry. Jerry understood that I just wanted to work for him. I just wanted to do the best job that I could, and that show was not allowing me to do it.
No, I hear you. I think one thing that show did do for you, though, because, again, if memory serves me correct, you went to Nashville and, you really started focusing on country music.
I did.
And your band is, look, the Caniacs, they call them, your band Kane. You have some of the most diehard fans in music as well, and you're also arguably one of the most talented country musicians I've ever heard. Tell the audience a little bit about that.
Well, man, you're also you're such a kind man, and that you're right. I was doing I got a deal with Sony at the time. I didn't have one afterwards, but I got a deal with Sony at the time. So while I was doing that show, it allowed me to go. They would call me and they would say, like, "Are you working on Tuesday?" But it was like 2 months from, because I wasn't on that show that much, and so I was allowed to go to Sony and start doing an album. And I just, it was so incredible because, we used to play the Viper Room here. We used to play the Viper Room. We were playing for Pussy and Whiskey. I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It wasn't, it wasn't, we didn't want money. We didn't want anything else. We just wanted to play. There was whiskey out there, and there was girls out there that we wanted to impress. If I can say that,
sure.
I don't know if I can say that this day and age, but
yeah,
that's how it was. And so we were just playing because we played for 4 years. We had we were at the Viper Room for 4 years, man, and all of a sudden somebody said go to Nashville. So we went to Nashville, and it became a business. And it became something that I just honestly didn't love. as much as some people would love. And I know that the Caniacs are out there, man, and they gave themselves that name.
Yes.
I love them so much. But the fact is it just became such a business and became something that, how do we make money off these people? And I'm like, these are not the people you make money off of. These
Right.
are the people you give a hug. These are the people that are there with you and stuff like that. And it just became something that I just didn't want any part of, man. And I hate the fact that we're not playing as much music anymore as we should. But it was just bad. It became, the great thing about, everybody talks about Nashville. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it, man, because I don't really give a shit.
Sure.
Nashville is, in LA, Ross, you've been here for a long time. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Me and you went through this together.
Yep.
In LA, they will come up with you and they will stab you in the chest with a knife.
Yeah.
In Nashville, they go, man, we think this is awesome, man. We think this is awesome. And they'll stab you in the back.
Right.
At least you can see it coming in LA.
In LA,
you know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
You can either block it or you can just take it.
Yeah.
But in Nashville, you never see it coming, man. And I just don't, I don't. And everybody gets upset with me because it's like, man, don't make that kind of enemy in Nashville because they'll never play you. Well, I don't give a shit if they play me.
Yeah, and it's one of those things with the dawn of the internet and SoundCloud and all this stuff. You're able to put up your own music now, so you're not dependent on somebody in Nashville to put your music out. Whereas before, you had to get published by one of the big ones, or your music wasn't getting out there. Now you have the opportunity to get it out to whoever you want. So, talking shit about it's fine. Same way with Hollywood, in a sense, where the social.
I'm really not talking. I mean, yeah, but yet there's Tim. It's the same thing. But I'm really not talking shit about it, to be honest.
No,
with you. I'm just telling you that I just don't. I'm just not gonna. I didn't have the. They didn't want me. They were like, oh, well, and when I say Nashville, people think I'm talking about the town Nashville. Nashville actually spreads out across the
country.
damn globe.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the fact is that, Nashville is not Nashville, not the town Nashville. Nashville is people in Chicago, people in Minnesota, people in Florida, people in New York. People, they don't realize that if you don't get, when I say Nashville is a conglomerate of all the radio stations out there.
Yeah.
And what they didn't want was an actor, quote unquote, that is now coming to the country music side of things. And what they don't understand is that I became an actor the same day I became a singer.
Right.
In the sense of name-wise, because I was a country singer on Fame LA, which, again, we'll go back to as my first role.
Yeah.
But the deal is that they don't get the fact. We don't want an actor out there. We don't want an actor because he's going to go away. You know what I mean? And I caught a lot of crap because of John Corbett and a bunch of other people that were actors that were going to hit the country music thing and all this other stuff. And I was like, you don't want an actor. You don't want an actor to be in this thing, but you have no problem. You have no problem rolling out the red carpet when Tim McGraw does a fucking movie.
Oh yeah. It's a whole different story
which,
then.
Which, by the way, I did with him, which was Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you have no problem when one of your guys makes it great, but you won't let one of us in there to just try to get to people what we want to be heard, which is our voice and our heart and everything else, the songs that we wrote. And especially somebody that takes it seriously. Most people don't realize this. I didn't phone it in, man. You know this about me, dude. You of all people know this about me. I lived in fucking Nashville for 8 years.
Yeah. You weren't like the Hollywood guy who was staying in Hollywood, kind of dabbling there. Like you full on moved to Nashville and
moved to Nashville.
Yeah, you picked up your shit and dude, you were opening up for huge people like Toby Keith.
Brooks and Dunn.
Yeah.
Big and Rich at the time. I opened up for Big and Rich, who opened up for Brooks and Dunn. But yeah, man, we were playing with. I was doing stuff for a long time, man. I mean, it's a lot of people don't know this. I was playing at this little place called Chi-Town. I don't think it's there anymore on DeMarmion in Nashville. I was playing with Jared Neiman and Jamie Johnson and Lee Bryce and all this other kind of stuff. Me and it's Lee Bryant and I would play hacky sack outside while we were recording at Reba McEntire's studio, which I love, by the way. If you're ever going to record a record or anything at all, go to Starstruck in Nashville because Reba does it right. Reba, okay. I'm such a huge fan of hers. And, I'm playing hacky sack with Lee Bryce with Lee Bryant. And I knew all these guys before they were who they were. Jamie Johnson was the guy who walked me into Sony that got me my deal at Sony that kind of kicked the whole thing off.
Man, that's incredible.
And in one day, well, not one day, but about a 2-week period, they canceled Arista, which was they kept Miranda Lambert, rightly so,
right,
but wrongly so. They fired Montgomery Gentry, Christian Kane, Jamie Johnson, and Leonard fucking Skinnard.
Whew, buddy. That's insane, man. You don't cancel Skinnard. Skinnard cancels you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But, I mean, if you actually think about it, and if you're a Jamie Johnson fan, Jamie Johnson's wrote half the country songs that we listen to today.
Yeah, still.
It's like, yeah. And you picked up the house rules for the Barnes Brothers.
For Barnes Brothers, for our MTV show. Absolutely. That's one of my favorite songs. Matter of fact,
can you ever see the Barnes Brothers? Can the viewers out there or the listeners out there, can they view the Barnes Brothers?
Oh yeah, it's on YouTube, and we'll pop up another copy on Facebook. But
so I was gonna go in and play a role.
Yes.
And I guess you said, what was it?
Cousin Kenny. Can you pin him?
Yeah,
Can
but
you pin him?
Was it or was it Cecil?
I think it was Kenny. It was
all right. I was gonna play the cousin coming in, all that kind of stuff. But if you listen to the Barn Brothers, you can hear a little bit of the house rules.
Yeah,
which was my first single that was out.
You know what? In fact, at the end of this episode, I'll stick house rules on the end of this episode. That way, the audience can hear it.
Dude, I think you should.
Still, yeah, I will. It's still one of my favorite country songs of all time.
And right when I got done recording that, I came back to Los Angeles, and it was me and Ross and Crawford, and we all were sitting around in Sonny's place, and we were in the kitchen, and I played it for him, and on a CD.
Yeah.
And it was just it was my honor, man. I was so proud of that thing, and I got to play it. And Crawford and Ross, I mean, both you guys just literally like.
Lost it.
Lost
it. We were like two fans. It's because it's one of those things where,
couldn't have been a better night for me.
Yeah, well, but it's one of those things where you're best friends with somebody, and then you hear this unexpected talent come out of them, where it's like, oh fuck, goddamn, like, because to me, like, I listen to a lot of music, and to me, that was a number one hit single. Where I was like, Jesus Christ! I felt like we had discovered something that nobody else knew about yet, and
right.
if that were able to hit main radio the way it should have been, I think that would have been number one for fucking ever, man.
I think so, man.
We'll let the audience be the judge, and I'll put it on the end of this show for sure. But to this day, arguably one of my favorite country songs of all time. But you came.
Well,
look, yeah, you came back, and then how did Leverage enter your life?
Leverage entered. Do you have time for this, dude?
Yes.
It's like a 2-hour goddamn conversation. All right,
doesn't matter. Like we go forever. It doesn't matter.
Leverage entered in I was in Nashville, and I was working on the album, and I got a couple of I got a film called Hide, and I won't get into that. But it was between me and some other guy, and I was like, "Listen, I'm not going to do this film. I'm working on albums." And it's so funny because it's the whole Kevin Bacon thing. What was that movie he did, man? You got to help me out on this. Where he went away. He wrote a script, but he went away, and he went on a picnic with it. Nobody touched it for like 3 years, but he went on a picnic, and nobody could get a hold of him.
Oh yeah. I can't remember the name of it.
The last picture, the big picture,
yeah,
the big picture.
Yeah, that's it.
And so it was like one of those things where it's like, once you're gone, they need you. And so I said, listen, I'm not doing that. I'm doing this. And I got a film. And then I came back and I said, I'm not doing TV. I'm not doing TV. I had enough of that bad thing with the whole CBS thing where I wasn't going to do TV. And then somebody said, oh, this is a story. Okay. So they sent me a script. My agent sent me a script, and it was called Leverage. And I said, all right. So I opened the script, and I read that they said they really want you to play Elliot Spencer, and I didn't know who did it or anything like that. And they said, just look at it. And I was like, Elliot Spencer. Yeah. I just got done playing Wick Lobo.
Wick Lobo.
I just got done playing Lindsey McDonald.
Yeah.
And now this guy's named Elliot. Why can't I get a name like Drake?
Yeah. Tank Williams. This is Tank Williams.
Yeah, exactly. Like something like that, man. I just can't, it's like Elliot Spencer. So I looked it up, and it says, Elliot walks into a bar wearing wire-rimmed glasses, sipping on tea.
And you were
That's all I
like,
read.
that is the perfect role for me. I've found my
That's all I
home.
read. And I took and I folded the script and I threw it over on the couch. And then
And that's it?
well, this is a pretty famous story. I threw it over on the couch. I missed the couch. It hit the wall. I went behind the couch.
Okay.
My agent calls back 2 days later and said, "What do you think, man? They really want to see you for this." And I'm like, this is not the role for me. And they said, well, John Rogers kind of wrote it and, with you in mind. And I'm like, John Rogers, who is uber famous. John Rogers, like, he created comic books almost other than Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you got to be kidding me. I'm like, John Rogers. And they said, yeah, Dean Devlin is producing him. It's like, Dean Devlin, they created Independence Day. They created Stargate.
Yeah.
They created, did Godzilla, the Patriot, all this other stuff. I'm like, I go, what?
Yeah.
So I dive under the couch into the spider webs and the cobwebs. And I know that says a lot about where I lived at the time. But
Sure.
I grab this thing, I pull it out, I open it up, I fly through it. My agent's on the phone. I'm like, Elliot Spencer. I'm like, again, wearing wire rim glasses, sipping on tea. Are you kidding me? 16 people pull guns out and he kicks the shit out of all of them. I went, what? It was another line. It was another line that I didn't read. It was the only line I didn't read. And I'm not sure if this got me the role or if it had anything to do with anything, but I go, I'm on a plane right now. I got on a plane. I flew back to Los Angeles. They had already seen people for my role.
Right.
Because I was so late in getting it done because I was being cocky and I never read the script. That's why I never, ever not read a script anymore. I literally thought it was going to be just like, I was like, I'm not going to play some douchebag that, so I get there, they're auditioning the girls. I'm the only guy that comes in and I audition and John Rogers is in the room and I got the role.
That's crazy.
So
how long when you auditioned did you find out? Because they don't give you the role in the room.
I had flown back the next day. So as soon as I auditioned, I knew that I had the role. I literally we went into here's a really great story. So the next day I auditioned and the next day they called me in for the final, the testing, which some of the listeners may not know. Testing is, me and Ross have been a part of this twice against each other. So testing is that they do the whole deal, but now you got to go in and audition one more time and see if you get the role.
Yeah, and they negotiate. You negotiate your contract ahead of time, so you know how much money you're going to make. You're going to know you're knowing all of it walking into that room, which adds to the pressure because then you're like, all right, shit, this is how much money I could be throwing away.
They tell you you're going to make you're going to make $2, and you're going to be on contract for 5 years. So you walk in, and let's be honest about it, it's a little more than $2. Yeah. So you know for a fact you're going to make some money. You know for a fact that if you book this in the next 30 minutes, you're set for either, like I was, 5 years or even 1 year. Yeah. Or it was a pilot. So, but even that, man, it's a new car. You know what I mean?
Fuck yeah, it is. Yeah. That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Well, hey, look, that'll bring me to the end here with the Librarians, which is your current show that you're starring on. How many seasons are you guys into Librarians right now?
Man, we're 4 seasons in.
Wow.
Which is ridiculous for a show.
And you finally got a cool name. You're Jake Stone on this show.
Finally, I'm Jake Stone, man. And you know what? It was a cool. He was like, "You're gonna play Jake Stone." I'm like, "That's cool. That's a cool name." But after all the times playing kind of pussy ass names, I was like, "Well, it's too tough." You know what I mean? Like,
now you don't want it anymore? After starring,
I don't want it anymore, man.
After starring on television for 20
you work
years.
Harder.
Yeah.
It's like after you get all these names that just really that don't have any toughness to them.
Yeah.
You sort of want because it makes me strive to be that guy. You know what I mean? When you get Elliot Spencer, you fight to make sure that everybody knows your name.
But now that you're Jake Stone, it's like he's already cool. Like Jake Stone's already a cool
he's already
guy.
cool. He's already got it going on. Yeah, I was very fortunate, man. I left Leverage, and in the off season, which I'm telling you this story to tell you the next one, which I ended up getting the role with Chris Downey was writing on King of Maxwell, and he wrote a role, or he brought me in to play a role that was Rebecca Romaine's brother on King of Maxwell, which is a very famous novelist. They brought me in to play her brother, and it was kind of because Rebecca's a really, really tall girl. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah, she's about she runs about 6 feet. I met her a few times when she was.
She might be a little over that, but it's exactly.
She's tall.
So I come in to play her brother, and and I'm like, and it was really fun because me and Rebecca had such a good time. We had such a good time, and the two most important scenes of the whole show were filmed right when I met her. Like I shook her hand, and then we filmed it all day, which was the opening scene and the end scene. And we had such a good time. And I said, "Do you want to talk about the elephant in the room?" And she was like, the giraffe. I'm like, yeah. So she's way taller than I am. And so she's like, "You want to do all this stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so we did this whole scene where let's talk about it, let's make fun of it. And I was like, "That's perfect." So she does this giraffe thing where she's like, I'm like, "Don't talk about the giraffe thing." She holds a spoon. If you ever get to see that King of Maxwell episode, it's unbelievable. And then the following year, like 8 months later, I ended up getting a show with Rebecca playing this. So I was actually Rebecca's brother in another show.
That's hilarious.
And so then we both get this show. And I was very fortunate because I felt like that, John Rogers and Dean Devlin both enjoyed what I did on Leverage. And so they wrote this role for me. There was no
audition.
No audition, no casting, no nothing, man. It was me. They wrote it for me.
That's amazing. That never happens. They wrote it for. Yeah, that never happens.
It doesn't happen. It never happens. And so I was so fortunate to be able to just come in and play again with my boss and play again with the creator of the show, John Rogers, and all that other kind of stuff, who knew me and who's written for me for years, and Dean Devlin, who's written for me and directed me for years, and all that kind of stuff, and Jonathan Frakes again, who's directed me all through Leverage, which is that's number one on Star Trek.
Yeah, sure.
Star Trek. Yeah. And it was played Riker, and all of a sudden I've got another job just out of nowhere. I just got another job out of nowhere.
That's amazing.
It's like yeah, and like I said, man, I've really got a Cinderella story, but the fact is, I work hard every day. I show up every day. If you need me, I'm there.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't play around with it. I don't, well, something's going to come to me. I don't do that. I go and get it, man.
Yeah,
90% of life is showing up. 90% of life is showing up, and you learn to fight by fighting.
Yeah, it is. And again, hey, happy Father's Day. Woody Allen said that.
You're killing me, man.
Christian Kane, look, you're one of my best friends. I've known you for almost 20 years. Thank you for being on the show. You've had a fantastic career, and I can't wait to see what is in store for you in the future, my man. I love you to death.
Dude, I love you, boy. I love you to death, man. It's been so good being your friend. God dang, man. I'm so proud of you with everything that you're doing. I know that most people probably won't say this, but I know you, man. I know you. I've known you for, like you said, 20 years, dude. And I'm just telling you, I'm so proud of your success, and I'm so proud of what you're doing. And I'm so proud that people are listening to you because, God dang, man, anything that comes out of this cat's mouth is worth listening to. I'm just telling you. I love you, boy. I really love you.
Appreciate it, man. I love you too. Thank you for the kind words, and man, I'll call you tomorrow.
Call me tomorrow.
All right, take care, buddy.
Bye, boy.
That was Christian Kane, ladies and gentlemen. Fun fucking dude, man. Again, we've been friends for a very long time, and God damn it, he always makes me laugh. I don't know if you've heard me laugh that hard on an episode before, but the hand, the missing of the hand story, and the hold the baby story are the two of my favorites in Hollywood. Forever in my life, and I'm super grateful he was on the show. He's fantastic. Check out his music too. It's on iTunes. Check out Kane, and check out House Rules. As a matter of fact, I'm going to play it for you right now. I'm Ross Patterson. This is The Revolution. Good night, everybody. This is House Rules by Kane.
boys play hard and you need a little more than just a radio. Well, here's your open invitation with just a couple regulations. Let me warn you, son, only come to have fun. We don't take kindly to serious. So leave your troubles at the door unless you want some in here. Welcome to my house, buckle up tight. Everybody sings and drinks and laughs and gets high. It's a contrary music, a little soul, it's a rock and roll rodeo and old Tyler Red Horse sitting around. Everybody's dancing, grooving, and getting on down. So before you come in here with some kind of attitude, you better read the house rules.